You know the drill. You crush a workout or you're rushing out the door and need a quick, quote-unquote, healthy snack. So you grab a protein bar. But here's a wild thought. Is that bar really any better for you than, say, a donut? Seriously. Okay, let's really dive into this and see what the facts have to say. I mean, this is what pretty much everyone thinks, right? It feels like you're making the smart, responsible choice. You see high protein splashed across the label and you think, yeah, I'm doing my body a favor. And you know what? That exact belief has built a multi-billion-dollar industry. But what if it's not true? What if that whole health halo thing is just really, really clever marketing? It's time to peel back the wrapper and find out what's actually going on inside these super popular snacks. All right, first up, the healthy habit myth. So, how did we all get so convinced that these bars are part of a healthy lifestyle? Well, let me tell you, it was no accident. This is all about a carefully crafted perception that's been built up for years. Get this, a major survey found that more than a quarter of us, 26%, buy protein bars for one main reason. We think they're a healthy snack. And again, that's not a coincidence. It's the direct result of some very, very specific messaging. You've seen them, those buzzwords like high in protein, low sugar, even plant-based. They're powerful, right? They make us feel good about what we're buying. So good, in fact, that most of us don't even bother to flip it over and look at the fine print on the back. But as you can probably guess, that's where the real story is. Which brings us to our next section, the donut in disguise. This is really the heart of it, because when you actually put a protein bar head-to-head with some classic junk food, well, the results are kind of shocking. And no, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, some researchers have literally called them candy bars in disguise, and for good reason. Once you strip away all those shiny health claims, the cold hard numbers on the nutrition label, they tell a very, very different story. Okay, let's look at the hard data. This comes straight from a survey by the Food Safety Authority, SafeFood. Check out this side by side. On one side, you've got a Milky Way bar. On the other, a typical protein bar. The calories? Almost identical. Total fat? Yep, same story. Saturated fat? Pretty much the same. The big takeaway here is that a lot of the time, you're basically just eating a candy bar. And this chart really just hammers home the saturated fat problem. That same survey found that a staggering 77% of protein bars were high in saturated fat. I mean, that's a red light warning on the UK's traffic light labeling system. And where does all that fat come from? Usually from added oils like palm or coconut oil, which are thrown in there to make the bar taste and feel better. Okay, so if it's not exactly health food, what is it? Let's get into the anatomy of a protein bar and break down what actually goes into making one of these things. So this is a pretty typical breakdown based on research into the most popular bars out there. Sure, you see that protein is a big slice of the pie, but look at everything else. Sugars and sweeteners can make up a quarter of the bar. Fats and oils, another 15%. And that chocolate coating, another 20%. Suddenly, that protein is just one piece of a very complex and very, very processed puzzle. Here's the dirty little secret that food manufacturers have to solve. The main ingredient, that protein powder, whether it's whey or soy isolate, it's pretty unpalatable. It tastes bad, it's got a chalky texture. So to make it something you'd actually want to eat, they have to load it up with a ton of other stuff. We're talking sugars and syrups for taste, gums and emulsifiers for texture. And then they usually just coat the whole thing in chocolate to mask whatever weird flavor is left. And here's a look at some of those lovely ingredients. You'll see things like polydextrose, sorbitol, xylitol, sucralose, soy lecithin, xanthan gum. I mean, does that sound like stuff you have in your kitchen? This is industrial food science, plain and simple. It's not cooking. Which brings us to a really great rule of thumb from Aloha. If you wouldn't recognize the ingredient in your kitchen, think twice. Seriously, if you're reading the ingredients and it sounds more like a chemistry experiment than a recipe, that's a huge red flag that what you're holding is ultra-processed. All right, so we've established the bars are super processed. But hey, we need that extra protein, right? Right? Well, let's tackle that idea next. This is the great protein myth. This might just be the most important question we ask today. The entire marketing engine for these products is built on one single idea, that we're all walking around protein deficient and we absolutely need to supplement it. But is that actually true? Well, the data on this is crystal clear. Just look at this table from that same Safe Food report. A typical adult male needs around 56 grams of protein a day. You know what the average intake actually is? Over 100 grams. For women, it's pretty much the same deal. Most of us are already getting nearly double the protein we need just from our regular meals. So who does need all that extra protein? Well, research points to a couple of very specific groups. We're talking about older adults who need to prevent age-related muscle loss, and maybe elite bodybuilders in the middle of intense training. But for the average person, even someone who hits the gym regularly, that extra protein from a bar is probably just a bunch of unnecessary calories. Okay, so if commercial bars are basically processed candy, and most of us don't even need the extra protein, then what's the answer if you still want a convenient snack? Well, this leads us to a pretty surprising alternative. Some innovators are completely rethinking the protein bar from the ground up. See, the big challenge has always been finding a protein source that doesn't need a chemistry set of other ingredients just to make it edible. And believe it or not, a potential solution is coming from a very unexpected place. This comparison really says it all. On the left, a typical commercial bar with that long list of chemicals we talked about. And on the right, the ingredient list for a new kind of bar. The protein source, get ready for it, a roasted cricket powder. And look what's with it: sunflower seeds, honey, dark chocolate. Things you actually recognize. No artificial anything. And here's why this works so well. Cricket powder is a minimally processed whole food. So unlike those protein isolates, it naturally comes packed with other great stuff like vitamin B12, iron, and calcium. It even has prebiotic fiber, which is great for your gut. And the key thing is, these nutrients aren't added in a lab, they're just naturally part of the cricket. So, after all this, what's the final verdict? Now that you know what really holds your protein bar together, are you gonna stick to whole foods, or are you maybe brave enough to try an all-natural insect protein bar? It really boils down to this. We've been sold a highly engineered product to fix a problem most of us don't even have. The choice is pretty clear. Either get your protein from actual food, chicken, eggs, beans, or if you really want that convenient bar, maybe it's time to get over the ick factor and try something that's a whole lot closer to nature. Definitely something to chew on.